The story begins with the introduction of Albert Edward Foreman, who has been the verger of St. Peter's Church for 16 years. His work as the verger is a source of great pride for him. He wears his traditional verger's gown and cap with dignity, fulfilling his duties with quiet efficiency. Despite not being a man of education, Foreman is content with his station in life. His routine and meticulousness in performing his duties are a reflection of the pride he takes in his work, and his sense of identity is deeply tied to his role at the church. The calm of Foreman's life is disrupted one day when the newly appointed vicar calls him into his office after a christening ceremony. The vicar, a young and modernizing figure, expresses admiration for Foreman's long service but raises a concern. After examining Foreman's background, the vicar has discovered that he is illiterate. He cannot read or write, which, according to the vicar, is unacceptable for someone in a position of responsibility within the church. The vicar, with the support of the churchwardens, delivers an ultimatum. Foreman must learn to read and write within 3 months, or he will lose his position as verger. Rather than comply with the vicar's demand, Foreman makes a quiet yet resolute decision. He refuses to learn how to read and write, stating that he has done his job perfectly well for 16 years without needing those skills. Foreman's refusal is not out of defiance but rather a reflection of his belief that his work and his worth are not defined by formal education. He sees no reason to change his ways at this stage in his life. Consequently, the vicar has no choice but to dismiss him from his position. Foreman leaves his beloved role at St. Peter's without protest, but this event shakes him deeply. After being dismissed from the only job he has ever known, Foreman finds himself at a crossroads. For the first time in 16 years, he is no longer the verger, a role that had defined him. As he walks through the streets of London, uncertain of his future, he experiences a moment of crisis. He reflects on his life and the unfairness of his situation, but at the same time, Foreman is not a man to wallow in self-pity. Maugham uses this moment to emphasize Foreman's resilience. Despite the sudden change in his circumstances, he remains composed and determined to figure out his next steps. As Foreman walks through the streets, lost in thought, he realizes that he has wandered into an unfamiliar part of the city. Tired and thirsty, he looks around for a shop where he can buy a pack of cigarettes but finds none in the vicinity. This seemingly mundane observation sparks an idea in Foreman's mind. He realizes that if he, a smoker, is looking for a cigarette shop and cannot find one, then others in the area must be facing the same problem. This moment of serendipity leads Foreman to think that there is a business opportunity here. A place where there is a demand but no supply. Without hesitation, Foreman decides to open a tobacco shop in this part of town, capitalizing on the unmet need. Foreman's decision to open a tobacco shop marks the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Despite his lack of education, he has always been a practical and observant man, and these qualities serve him well in his new venture. He rents a small shop and begins selling tobacco products, and his business quickly becomes a success. Foreman's unpretentious nature and keen sense of what people want make him a natural businessman. Over time, his shop grows more popular, and he starts to earn a comfortable income. Maugham highlights Foreman's natural business acumen, showing that success is not always determined by formal education but by common sense, determination, and an understanding of people's needs. Foreman's success does not stop at a single shop. With his earnings, he opens more tobacco shops in various parts of London. His business flourishes, and before long, he owns a chain of 10 tobacco shops across the city. The story paints Foreman as a self-made man who, despite being illiterate, uses his practical intelligence and entrepreneurial spirit to build a thriving business. His success is all the more remarkable considering the circumstances that led to it, being forced out of his job as a verger for being illiterate. The irony of Foreman's situation is clear. The very trait that led to his dismissal becomes irrelevant in the world of business, where his instincts and practical skills are what matter most. As Foreman's business grows, he accumulates significant wealth. One day, he goes to the bank to discuss his finances with the bank manager, who is astonished by Foreman's success. The manager, assuming that Foreman is well educated, suggests that he invest his money in securities to ensure long-term financial stability. When Foreman reveals that he cannot read or write, the bank manager is shocked. He cannot believe that a man who has built such a successful business is illiterate. In this moment, Maugham underscores the irony of Foreman's life. Despite society's emphasis on formal education, Foreman's illiteracy has not prevented him from achieving great success. The bank manager's astonishment at Foreman's illiteracy leads to a moment of deep irony in the story. The manager asks Foreman what he might have achieved if he had been able to read and write. Foreman's response is simple yet profound. He says that if he had learned to read and write, he would still be the verger of St. Peter's Church. This statement encapsulates the central irony of the story. Had Foreman conformed to the expectations placed on him by the vicar and learned to read, he would never have discovered his natural business talents. His illiteracy, which was initially seen as a weakness, becomes the very thing that allows him to find success and independence.